As business owners and fintech executives, our IQ and our problem solving skills is our superpower. We use it every single day to solve complex problems. Yet at home, in the relationship space, it's not working and it doesn't work and it's failing probably close to 100% of the times. And it's not that you're not putting effort in, it's just not working. So in this video, I'm going to show you why solving problems is probably the worst thing you can do, and 2 things you can do to completely transform the issues you're having in a relationship. So let's get into it. Problem solving. Yes, it is your absolute superpower. You use it every single day. The problem is, with relationships and people, we're humans. We don't operate through logic. And this is the problem we've got. We're using the wrong architecture. So you're really good at being able to, at work, we've got problems that need solving. So we've got, systems and processes and tools and governance and risks and issues and operations. And there's a lot of different things we can actually look at, data analytics, all this stuff to be able to bring into, okay, this is our problem. This is the things we need to do to be able to solve the problem we've got, put some KPIs around it, measure it, put it back in, see how it goes, iterate, go from there, refine, and we come to a solution. It's a very logical way of doing something, and it works in business. It's really good at business. The problem is when we try and transform that skill set to a human skill set, it doesn't work. And again, like I said, it's not as if you're not putting effort in at all. You're putting a lot of effort in to try and get the same result, but you're banging your head against a brick wall going, why isn't this working? And it's like, it works at work. It works perfectly at work. But yet at home, it doesn't work at all. And it's like, well, yes, there's a good reason for that. Is because people don't work like that. We are not logical beings. We are people that are run by hormones and feelings and emotions. And if you're trying to influence human behavior or solve problems via using logic, it just doesn't work. It never has worked. But this is the problem you've got, is you're trying to use that skill set to solve a human thing. So the first thing you've got to understand is that you're using the wrong tool set, because without using a system that actually allows yourself to talk to the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, you're going to fail every single time at trying to solve problems. So the first thing you need to realize, I'm using the wrong tool set for this. Second part is, what do I need to do in that place? So this is where it gets a bit counterintuitive in this place, right? Is that solving problems is probably your problem. And hear me out here. The problem you're presented with from your partner is not actually the problem. So let me give you an example. You may have had an argument with your partner about something you said. And then you go, okay, right, I've said something wrong. Let me remediate that, not say that again. I'll make sure I don't say these words and I'll do this and do this, right? It's a very logical way of thinking about it. But that's not how we operate, because what's really happening here, they're not reacting to what you said. They're reacting to how it's triggered their identity. So one way you can actually start to transform this is to dig a bit deeper, have some emotional awareness around what the actual problem is to begin with. Because what happens with a lot of people is they try and solve problems, but it's the wrong problem to try and solve, and they try and solve it through logic. So that's why it doesn't work. So you can have some emotion. So what you will do in this state is, like, let's say you've said something wrong, and what will happen is that you can say, okay, well, how did that make you feel when I said this? And I might say, well, it was unseen, unheard, and rejected. Okay. You go, okay, well, if you felt that, what does it say about you as a person? How do you feel about who you are as a person? Well, it means that I'm either invisible, I don't matter, and I'm a bit worthless. So now you're really getting to the crux of the problem, is that their identity is, which has probably been there for a long time, is they're struggling with the fact that they feel a bit worthless. So when you say something that triggers that, you'll get this big emotional reaction. But what most people are trying to do, they're trying to tackle the surface issue about what you said, not the actual issue down here. Is this person for a long time has felt like they're completely invisible and they're actually worthless. So there's the actual problem, right? not up here. So what happens is people try and tackle the surface level problem without the real source of the problem. So you need to understand is that you need to get to the depth of the place where the real problem exists. And that's usually with the person's identity and who they believe themselves to be, which is then rooted in a lot of things from the past. Okay. That's all a different conversation in that space, right? The second part is that transforming this from problem solving to solution mode. Now, we can get stuck in this mode of if we continually fix problems, we will get to the place we want to get to. And that doesn't work with humans, right? It works in a place of logic, and it works in a place of business, right? Where you go through a series of steps of solving problems to get to an outcome you want to get to. With humans, it doesn't work that way, right? Because if you get in the loop of trying to solve problems all the time, you'll get stuck in a loop and never get out. And you'll feel negative, you'll feel withdrawn, you'll feel exhausted, you'll feel tired because all you're doing every single day is solving problems. And that's exhausting in a relationship. So you need to stop. And I know, again, this is counterintuitive to what everyone else is actually teaching out there and saying, right? But this is why my shit works, is that you need to stop fixing problems. You need to go, right, we want to have this relationship. So sit down with your partner and go, we want a relationship to be like this. So if we want it to be like this, how do I need to show up in this relationship? Who do I need to be to create this kind of relationship? So, for example, if you want a relationship to be more communicative, more intimate, more loving, more fun, more kind, more open, more honest, more safe, all that kind of stuff, right? You want to have that as your basis of the relationship. You need to go, well, who do I need to be to create that? Not do, right? Because that's intellect. Who do I need to be? So all you have to do is show up as that person and act like it. So be more loving, more communicative, more open, more honest, more transparent, more caring, more kind. You know, show up as that version of the person. And all of a sudden, you might realize that the problems you were trying to fix disappear. And this is the funny thing with what doing this is that all the things you thought were an issue tend to actually just go away because you're focusing on a solution, not focusing on fixing problem. So what you can do is go, right, pivot this way and let's start being this person individually, showing up for ourselves and our partner and relationship like this. And all of a sudden, your relationship transforms into this place that's happy, fun, intimate, loving, caring, honest, open, everything you've wanted, just by you showing up and acting like that. So it's a very different way of being able to solve the problems in your relationship by not looking at problems. And I know it's a bit counterintuitive, like I said. So just to recap with where you're at and the problems you've got in your relationship. Number one, you're trying to solve problems from an IQ, intellect, logical, critical thinking, business model mode. You're trying to take that architecture and transform it to your human relationship. It doesn't work. It never does work, never will work. And that's why it's failing every single time. That's why you're exhausted as well too, because it's never going to work. That's not how humans operate. Two, you're trying to solve surface level problems that really don't exist. Right? You got to get to the core of the real problem you're dealing with, which is an identity issue, which is deep inside someone's subconscious mind. Okay. You need to be able to ask open-ended questions and be curious about how they're feeling and what does it say about themselves that will lead you to the place of what the real problem is. And thirdly, stop fixing problems. Literally sit down with your partner, map out how you want this relationship to be, and start acting like it. It's the quickest way possible because otherwise you're going to get stuck in this loop of fixing problems all the time. So that's the three things. If you do that, you'll find that your relationship will be completely different. And if this is you, right? If you're listening to this and going, Greg, this is exactly where I'm at. I'm banging my head against a brick wall and I'm trying to use logic to try and solve an emotional problem and I don't know what to do. I'll put a link down below. If you want to have a chat, book a call. We can have a discussion about where you're at, what to do, how we can solve this for you, how to show up. really quickly. I can teach you the process I've got, which is called a logic override, rather simple, and get you to a place where you can transform your relationship from being in complete shitsville and on the brink of divorce and contempt and you basically losing the lot to a place where your relationship is bigger and better than you can ever imagine. And you can learn a skill set which is about human influence. It's about talking to that limbic system in the brain where you can help influence the way that people see you and feel about you and what and how they connect with you. So that's a really fun thing we can do. So if that's up your alley, there's a link down below. Click on that, book a call, and we can have a chat. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Catch you later.